welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with the head coach Shaka Smart. And we have a special guest with us during this portion of the program. Longhorns assistant coach Mike Morrel is with us here tonight. Now, I usually start off by asking Shaka to talk about how you two guys, got to know each other. You've known each other a little while, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. I guess it's about 10 years now or so. We met at Clemson, and I was a GA when Coach was an assistant there, and kind of our relationship budded from there. But it's been a long time. I guess I've known him as long as anyone on staff, and he's been really good to me over the years.
You know, Shaka, it's one thing when folks ask you about what you spot in players when you recruit. I think it's also fair to ask you what you can spot in a graduate assistant and a GA that says, this guy could make a really good college basketball coach.
Well, it was an interesting story because, you know this, I think, the GA before him had been fired. And
fired?
That doesn't usually happen with GAs. But, the guy we were working for, Oliver Purnell, he had a high standard. And so Will Wade, a guy that we both worked with at VCU, on his way out of Clemson, he was going to another job, recommended Mike. Coach Purnell hired Mike, and he kind of became the guy on the staff that I really looked to for help because he, number one, had an unbelievable work ethic. The guys really, really enjoyed being around him and liked him, and we had some challenging guys at Clemson. I mean, we had some guys that weren't the easiest to develop relationships with, and Mike did a really good job there. And then he actually, with my scouting reports, when it was my turn to do the scout, Mike really was helpful with me, helping me with that stuff, and we would kind of work together on, whichever team it was that we were preparing for. So I got a feel right away for the fact that he knew the game, was really good with the guys, and also was going to work hard.
Mike, is in your capacity in working with the wings and all the coaches work together and stuff, but you zero in on helping out the wings. Mm-hmm. What's your impression of the guys you work specifically with and how they've adapted and adopted everything that Shaka wants them to accomplish this season?
Yeah, I think they've been great. And it's really been led by DeMarcus Holland,
yep.
A guy who's been around for a long time, who's got great experience. And he's a guy that's really helpful for me. And Coach gives me a message, and then I go to those guys with a message. And DeMarcus is a guy I can go to with a message, and he's really helpful with a guy like Tevin. And then Kendall's continued to get better throughout the course of the year. And obviously we recruited Tevin, so the relationship piece was already there with him. But with DeMarcus and Kendall, they've been unbelievable to me in just coachability, on the floor, off the floor, academically, and when you oversee a group like that, I've been really fortunate to have three guys who really let me impact them and carry on Coach's message.
And what you just said, I think, is pretty revealing because folks will look at numbers all the time, look at points or this and another thing they look at is minutes. And DeMarcus hadn't played a ton of minutes in periods this season. I know you mentioned in the media availability you wanted to get him some more minutes out there. So it would be, I guess, natural for some folks to think, well, that guy, maybe the coaches don't like him as much or maybe he doesn't contribute. That's not how it's been. I know from how the both of you are seeing how you interact with DeMarcus.
We love DeMarcus. I mean, he's one of a kind, and when he graduates, it will be a significant loss for this program. And he's a guy, as you watch us here down the stretch, you'll see, he's going to be very, very important to what we do. For instance, playing a team like Baylor, he did a phenomenal job the first time out on Taurean Prince, who's one of the best players in the league. We need that again on Saturday. So between him and Kendall, we like to call those guys the Energy Brothers. Mm-hmm. We had two guys that we coached at Clemson that just brought unbelievable energy and intensity to the game, first and foremost on the defensive end, and these two guys remind us of those guys. So we always try to make sure they understand we appreciate the winning plays they make.
And knowing how DeMarcus is, he's not one of those guys who says, why am I not playing more? Why am I not? He's not like that.
He wants to play more.
Yeah,
he, like anyone else, he wants to play more, but you got 5 spots out there to fill, and there's a lot of guys that want to play more. The one thing about him is he has a maturity to understand it's the coaching staff's job to put the guys out there that they think make the most sense at that time.
One thing that I've noticed about not only how the two of you work together, but with all the coaching staffs, is that each of your coaches seem to really embrace the roles you have them doing, even as you all work, intermingle to work together as a cohesive staff. I mean, it's important for them to have the individual part of it down as well as the group thing, isn't it?
Well, it is, and for Mike, I've been with him for a while, or he's been with me, so it's easy for me to say, hey, Mike, you got this area, you're working with these players, and to know that really what I want is for these guys to take on that specific part of the job as if they're the head coach. And I may give them some direction in certain things, but I want them to look at it like, hey, this is my area, these are my guys, and not from a sense of, nobody else can talk to them or anything like that, but just from an ownership standpoint. And Mike's done a really good job of that. At VCU, we became one of the better pressing teams in the country, and Mike took a lot of ownership of that. Every single trap we looked at, every single play, what are they doing? What can we do better? What can we do differently? Because you can always scrutinize things even more.
How much do you enjoy the teaching part of it, Mike, with your guys, especially when you're talking about pressing and trapping and defense as well as what you want offensively?
That's other than the relationship piece, that's the most fun part, and trying to schematically beat the other team, and Coach gives us so much freedom in our specific area and with our guys to go out and do that. Not every assistant gets that opportunity throughout the country, so we're really fortunate to work for a guy who allows us to do that. But that's other than working with the players on the floor, that's the best part.
All right, now I could be way off base here, but try to understand an outsider's perspective when you guys first came in and I was getting to know all of you guys. My initial impression of Mike Morrel was that Shaka is the teacher, instructor, motivational guy. All coaches have the motivational area. Mike was kind of the bad cop. That was the vibe I got early on. Is there any substance to that? Because you could dial up the intensity and the occasional language a little more than some of the other coaches.
You want to talk about that?
Go ahead, man.
No,
Am I way off base on that?
Well, the first thing is you got to play to your strengths. And we had a guy on our staff at VCU for 5 years that was one of the best bad cops I've ever been around. His name's Mike Rhodes. He's now the head coach at Rice. And when he moved on, there was a real void on our staff. And Mike stepped into that and was able to – bad cop's probably the wrong word.
Yeah, I was just searching for a term there when I said that.
I'm not a guy as a coach that can be a jerk and the guys like it. Daniel Roos has that trait. He can be kind of hard on the guys and almost, kind of rough on them, and they kind of like it. That's not me. The guys got to know that I'm with them. I believe in them, and particularly with this group, Mike's really good at when something needs to be addressed, going after it, and he doesn't mix any words.
Yeah, I guess that's probably was the intensity part of it, and you seem to embrace it.
Yeah, I love it, but again, that's him giving us the freedom to be able to do that. And he gives us job descriptions and responsibilities, and the first thing that it says on each one of those responsibilities is to spend time with the players. So you got to have a relationship with these guys to be able to coach them at the level that we want to. So, it's to me, again, when you're out there in between the lines, we probably yell a little bit sometimes.
I'll say this, Craig. A lot of times in practice we'll break up the orange team against the white team, and then I'll have these guys take a team. And this is going back to VCU. It was gold against black. Mike's team wins, I would say, 75-80% of the time. And that's always a good sign, in an assistant, because the reality is, at some point, hopefully soon, he's going to be a head coach, and he'll have his own team. And it won't be him coaching a scrimmage in practice. It'll be him coaching that team in a real game, in the preparation for that real game. So when he has that team in practice, he really has those guys' attention, whether it's defensively or in a timeout. Here's what we're going to do out there. And, again, that really bodes well for his future.
And it's got to be authentic. It's got to be real. And I get the genuine vibe for it because student athletes can see through phonyism. They can see through something that's manufactured and not real. So that's why it comes natural to you, then, right?
Yeah, I guess, it's not like I sit there at the end of the night and scream into the mirror or anything like that. But, again, I think one thing that I've always admired about Coach is the passion that he has, and I feel like I have a lot of passion myself. My passion probably comes out a little bit different than his or other coaches across the country or assistants or whatever it may be, but I do have a passion for this game and more importantly for these guys and watching them get better. So that's, it's special, especially, when my three mess up, I probably get a little bit more anxious.
I remember at VCU when Mike was elevated to assistant coach, the first time he had a scouting report on another team. We don't do it this way anymore, but it used to be the assistants would split up, and they have a scouting report on that team. And so the first time he had one and we lost the game, Mike was just so distraught. And I remember saying to him, "It's not your fault, man. You did your part. We didn't lose because of the scouting report. We lost because we didn't, as a team, do everything we need to do. And by the way, we played a really, really good team. I think that team ended up going to the Sweet 16 that year. So, but that's how much pride Mike takes in what he does. And you want guys that have a level of ownership."
We're going to have more with Mike Morrel coming up when Longhorn Weekly, live from Pluckers, the West Campus location, continues in a moment.
Mack out to Davis, wants another three, has another three. How about Eric Davis? His fourth three of the first half. Texas up 8.
As assistant coach Mike Morrel is with us, and that was one of those deals you talk about players getting in a groove. I mean, Eric always feels like he's in a groove anyway when he's hitting when he knocks down the first one, right?
Right. Yeah. No, Eric's never met a shot he didn't like. That's for sure.
And Tevin's similar, right?
Oh, Tevin definitely never met a shot he didn't like.
Were you shocked to see Tevin pass up an open three to get it to Eric to knock down the other one that he did?
I thought that was, Coach mentioned Snoop's play. I thought that was indicative of Tevin progressing and getting better. And we have a thing called one more passes. So that's, you might have a good shot, but your teammate might have a great shot. So Eric yelled out one more there, and Tevin hit him right in the numbers, and Eric made a great shot. So it was a good pass by Tevin as well.
Now, for folks who don't know, Mike was a two-sport athlete at Milligan College. That's in Northeast Tennessee. 1,400 career points. It's a mark that ranks in the top 10 in school history. A 3-year starter. He helped Milligan, the Buffaloes, go to the NAIA National Tournament. Also a 2-time all-conference golfer who led the team to a league championship in 2003. And we actually had a question from here in the restaurant from Paige, who wants to know how your golf game is these days.
It's bad.
Is it really?
It's bad. I've not played since I've been in Austin. And, we've been pretty busy here the last few months. So it's not very good. I grew up on a golf course, working at a club there in where I'm from. And so I cleaned the shoes, I cleaned the clubs, I did everything. So they let me play a little free golf at the end of the day. So I learned how to hit it a little bit.
You were kind of from at the base of the Smoky Mountains over there in Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Elizabeth in Tennessee, Johnson City area, Upper East Tennessee. So we got a few courses up there that are not too bad.
And those are the courses, for folks who don't know, as a native of North Carolina, I can tell you from going up the mountains, that's where you have to have the gasoline golf carts because
yes.
of those. There's a lot of up and down on those fairways, right?
And if you hit it too far right, too far left, you're golfing your ball out of the woods.
When we talk about, we mentioned Eric Davis, but I want to get in. We've talked a little bit about Tevin. You mentioned his development. We've mentioned a little bit about DeMarcus and Kendall, but the way that those two guys, those Energy brothers, have worked together, DeMarcus Holland and Kendall Yancey, sometimes, and this is well known in college basketball, that upperclassmen are a little bit resistant when a new coaching staff comes in. But from hearing from you saying those guys not only accepted everybody with open arms, but they were eager to embrace what was going on.
Oh, man, they were great. Those two were phenomenal from day one that we got here. I can remember being here when Coach had one of the first team meetings. I think it was the first full day we were here, and I just remember DeMarcus sought me out and came up to me and just let me know how excited he was that we were here. And that's special. And Kendall's he's been great. Obviously, he's in a starting role now, and some games he plays a ton of minutes. Some games he plays around 8 or 9 or something like that. But he is both of those guys feed off each other, and they compete so hard against each other in practice because they're very rarely ever on the same team. So they've been great, and again, they've helped Tevin's progress and really helped me know how to coach him better.
How do you like Big 12 basketball and the intensity that it is on a night-in, night-out basis? Not to say the intensity isn't in the Atlantic 10, because
Right.
it is, but the grind that is the Big 12 Conference, what's that been like for you?
And especially this year.
Yep.
You know, and it's been something. You know, when you go on the road to some of these venues, I had never been to a Big 12 venue until I had gotten here, never won arena. So going to Fogg and going to Hilton for the first time was obviously something that you'll remember, and they're as good as advertised. But I think our guys kind of let us know a little bit what it was all about. But great teams. I mean, you know, I think you look last year, 7 out of 10 got in. That's 70% of our league, and probably going to get as many in this year. So it's a bear of a league, but it's something that is really, really fun to know that you're going up against the best in the country every night.
Well, you're doing great work. Appreciate you dropping by tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, it's Mike Morrel. Hey, stay with us. Coming up, we'll get to a couple of the questions here for Coach Smart and more when Longhorn Weekly continues here on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn IMG Radio Network.